JB here. JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Tuesday, July 3/28. This fine afternoon. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P is pretty much flat. Same with the Nasdaq. Dow's down about a third of a percent. Uh, I guess I wouldn't call it a far cry from yesterday's action, but tight trading range, 0.418% trading range. SPY all the way up to 622, and then a reversal right after the noon hour, all the way back to 619.50. And then we've been chopping around ever since. Not much in the way of catalyst, right? There was a cabinet meeting, so you had Trump going on. I don't know if it was like a 2 hour rant, but he was talking about everything from pictures to paint in the cabinet to medallions, right? Little things that go around lights and fixtures. I was pretty, I mean, I just have it on. Sometimes it's like listen to some of these hearings, right? When you have testimonies from Fed Chair Powell, whatever. Sometimes I have that in the background as a almost like a comedic relief, right? But he did mention some things, around tariffs and things like that. But uh, we'll have to see how everything plays out here. Yesterday, you have letters going out. Today, you have Treasury Commerce Secretary saying more letters going out. Right? Like this is a seventh grade dance is coming up, and the kids are writing their letters to their someone they want to invite to the dance. It's how we do it. We communicate letters now. Uh, well, needless to say, I think a lot of this is going to get resolved in a positive fashion, especially with South Korea and Japan. And I think the market's kind of like pricing some of that in. So, pending any crazy headline shenanigans, I think we kind of chop around here for a little bit, and then we can start melting above till that back up to high 627, 628 or so. Big area to watch. I mean, we closed at 620 on Thursday, so that's kind of been hanging around here too. And then obviously that 617 handle that I put as kind of the range this week, and all the way up to 628 on the flip side. I was talking about the RSI this morning. We are back under 70 on the RSI on the SPY, so that's a good sign. But you have to look. Okay, if we hang here around 620 for a little bit and we just hit highs, is that like a topping formation setting up? So there's always, you always have to have caution, right? I mean, that's we could sell off at any time, but you're just looking for certain things, right? The RSI, the upper Bollinger Band, the possible topping. So hopefully that doesn't play out another, maybe tomorrow we can get solid green 622 plus or so, and I'll kind of negate that setup. And then we look forward to earnings season. So that's kind of the overall markets. I mean, other things to know too is the yields, right? So treasuries continue to, um, well, yields continue to kind of just they're not soaring, but the 30 years getting close to 5 again. So now I was talking about this morning the shadow Fed situation. You got to think that's the next step, right? And Trump just came out in his Truth Social already again about Fed Chair Powell today. It's just a matter of time before he just says this is who's going to be the next Fed chair. And that Fed chair person is going to say, yeah, the instant I'm in office, I'm going to cut rates. Before the instant I'm nominated and confirmed or what have you, I'm going to cut rates 1%. So the market will probably start pricing that in far before it happens, which maybe could be the next leg for markets. All right, so that's kind of the overall markets. Yeah, and here's TLT. I mean, you take a look, and some of this you have to think has to be that tax bill, right? I mean, it just um, two ways that you can reduce the deficit, right? You take in more revenues or you cut expenses. Well, actually, there's three ways, right? Cut things off the budget, you generate more revenues, or the interest payments start to drop, right? And cutting rates obviously will go long way in reducing that too. And all right, things for other days. All right, so that's kind of the overall market. So now just individual names. First, really quick on VKTX. I think I've already said this before, but not that it took any fancy math. I call it fuzzy math. But their last venture phase 2 study was back at the end of 2023. I think it was October. 13-week study. So they did this 13-week study, released that on February 27th, 2024. Somewhere in there. It's 127 days. So me being the brain surgeon that I am, and part of my sarcasm, I went and extrapolated that to the next study. So between the enrollment date, which is March 26th or something, you put 127 days on that, and that gets you to July 31st. So if it used the exact same amount of days, you would think that's when the VKTX venture data is coming out for phase 2. I mean, it's very important data. So it's one of those where if VKTX has exceeds estimates, I mean, stock's gonna be back 70, 80, if not higher. If it's one of those duds or kind of in line, the stock's it's probably it, right? I'll probably take it away off my watch list as a trade. But so, I was talking about for the last couple of weeks this 30 handle. It broke out or it tested 30. I think it was like at the start of June, and then it gave it back, and here it is back over $30. So it's been almost like a tradable 30 to 26 for the last 2 months, which is frustrating, if you just you want eventually to break out. But I think if it holds 30 bucks here, I think maybe there's a short-term move and maybe some hopium or some bidding up into that data. So wouldn't be surprised to see a trade higher in the coming days. I still have those July strikes and the August. The August I already locked some in, and me, I'm an optimist. So I think there's going to be even better data, and the stock company's already positioned to take advantage of positive data. It's just a matter of the time frame to get into market and the competitive landscape and all that stuff. But I think even just the positive data will ramp up that premium for M&A. It will ramp up a lot of different things. So I think it will trade north of 80 bucks. All right, so that's BKTX. Lemonade disappointing. It's almost like Reddit, right? And Reddit over the last couple months since I've been trading, it's at 90 bucks. Uh, every morning it seems like out of the gate it rallies, and then it'll be up 2, 3, 4, 5%, and then it'll just give it all back. And I mean, Reddit did it again today, all the way up to 154, and it's at 146. But Lemonade, it seems like every time it gets a nice rally, and last Tuesday it did kind of the same thing it did this morning, squeezed all the way up to 44 bucks, and then just gives it back. Trade down to 40 bucks, 40.92, and sitting here at 41.66. I mean, look at the charts. It's got a tight pincher here. So I wasn't a really tight pincher when I moved from the 30s all the way up to 50, well, mid 40s, but I think it's setting up nice here. I'll be patient here, adding some more strikes. Hopefully it gets into those 50s this week for my calls. That's Lemonade. TripAdvisor, I post on FinTuit too, and I keep talking about this. I'm trying to do some research. Starboard Value has taken stakes in other companies. I have to go look back at some of these names. I think they actually did one in Marathon, right? Or Riot, one of those, I think one of the blocks. But needless to say, what's going to happen is they announced their 9% stake or not. Well, I want to say announced. Wall Street Journal announced it for them. But there's going to be some letter that's going to go to the directors of TripAdvisor, right? The Trip will get a letter from Starboard. Who knows what they're going to say? Hey, we want board seats. We want this. My guess is they're going to want spinoffs of the assets, right? I mean, if you look at the company, the 3 segments of their business, 2 of those segments are, in my opinion, worth more than the company's valued right now. So if you take those out, those will both probably trade at the same valuation that Trip trades right now, at the same valuation. So you have to think, the letter's coming. If not letter, then spin-off news. There's some other catalyst that's going to come for Trip. So I'm still holding my freebie 17s. At some point, I'll look to get some. I mean, I keep looking further out, maybe some August 21st. Hang on a second, folks. I have the Septembers, so I'll continue to look for more opportunities to play it further out strikes, because I just think, I was saying this morning too, the premiums right now for the further out strikes are a heck of a lot less expensive than when I was trading at the start of the year and the end of last year. So, all right, so that's Trip. I got some GLD puts. Gosh, I mean, maybe it's a couple months ago I got the GLD puts. Of course, my thoughts. I'm not going to go on a huge rant on that. To me, this whole dollar conversation, U.S. dollar. I mean, POTUS talked about it at his cabinet meeting, talking about the BRIC economies trying to remove the U.S. dollar as reserve currency and all that stuff. And even today, you have I have to go look. They're bringing up Nixon, right? The U.S. dollar's had its worst first half since Nixon was in office, and Bretton Woods and all that's the time that that the U.S. decoupled from gold and became a fiat currency, like all that BS stuff. But it's funny how that all works, and now it's almost like similar to the market. I'm not saying the market is top, but you look at gold and it's like the rally up. And here, these are my annotations. The only reason I pulled this out so you can see why I keep stock charts, not because I think it's the best platform, but because I have annotations on the chart going back over a decade, and because of that, and to me, charts are a history lesson. So those annotations are important. Where it found support, resistance, where it broke through, things like that. So when I look at gold, it was on its way up, higher highs, higher lows, and now all of a sudden it's like you can make the case that it's making lower highs and lower lows. So we'll have to see how this move plays out, because if it doesn't get a bid Tuesday or Wednesday, I think it's headed to 310, 3,100 or below. So don't be surprised if I add some more strikes, or I'll continue to look at it this week for more opportunities. I did add some puts. They were up solidly in the early morning, 11 o'clock or so. I think they were close to a double, and then it bounced a little bit. So still holding those. They're still in the green. And then some other names here. ROKU actually just had a nice little 40-cent candle, but ROKU's trading like almost. I won't have to. I'm trying to think of a way to describe the action lately, but it's been holding up well. Typically, like I was saying on the watch list, Roku would be off 3 to 5% on the day like yesterday. Instead, if the market was open for a couple more minutes yesterday, Roku would have been green. So still holding up here nice. I think it's a matter of time for it trades into the 90s. I'm hoping it happens in the next day or two. And then I can start looking to get out some of my hundreds and the rest of my 95s. And then finally, I'll get some August. I'm going to wait for 90 to break first. RH in the green here today, a little weak, similar yesterday, right? So you had the tariff news kind of weighed on RH. And it's not that tariffs per se on RH, but just as a whole, it's like a sensitive name to tariffs, right? It's like anytime there's a tariff headline, RH seems to find pressure. But bouncing a little bit here today, so maybe, or at least reversing the lows. So maybe a good sign. I mean, obviously I needed to rally here quick. And then why don't I have JOBY up here? Did I have JOBY? Well, anyway, JOBY. So I mean, big move here today. I was in lieu of trying to, I've been holding on to those 11 strikes for quite some time, and at some points they were red. I'd already locked some in for 100%, and then I didn't want to be in a spot where I lose the rest of the profits, so I closed the rest out for like 150%, whatever that was. And then I'm looking for further out strikes. Goes my August 12s, and the August 12s are solidly green. I was actually looking, and the thing with the Jobies is it doesn't have September strikes. So you got to go out to October. And I was looking at the October 15s, almost pulled the trigger there. Maybe if I do get a strike, it's probably gonna be like October 17s. But if you take a look at the channel it's been trading in, it seems like maybe if it hits 12, it might chop around a little bit. So I'm gonna be patient, have some time, have the August strikes. So even if I miss the upside move, it's not the end of the world. I'd rather miss the upside and not add the Octobers and still hold the August than trying to add the Octobers and then we get a pull, right? And so that's kind of my thought process there. I think that's it. For some reason, I'm losing my voice today. I don't know why that is. Other names, unfortunate, right? Look at Edit. Edit was one of my top 5 stocks back in the day, a long time ago. Kind of as cancer, oncology, all those names were soaring. Here's a name that kind of has a play in all those little names. And then you had M&A, I forget the name of the company, a couple of weeks ago, and that's kind of put a bid in the stock. It's one of those names that in the biotech space over the years, you see a name, sometimes buyout names, right? You'll see them. They used to be at $70 or $50, go all the way down to like $1 or 75 cents. And then like 5 years later, they're back over 60, $70, or they get acquired. Not saying the same here with Edit. I tried to do some lottos on Edit. I don't know if it was the start of this year or what have you, but definitely, some of these bio names look so interesting. It's just there's lots of uncertainty with the new with RFK, HHS, and all that stuff. So anyway, I think that's about it. I'm trying to think of Unity, another one of those names. It's a very divisive name. There's a lot of people have written bear pieces on it. And it's a company that's kind of had some snafus with their consumer base. They've changed pricing models. They've done some things that have really annoyed folks, and the fact that there's competitors in the space that allows those folks to go to different people. So they've lost some business, but it's always a name. I'm like, how can this company, if you have a kid or even if you play any game, if you're on the App Store or what have you, and you always see Unity. So a lot of these, I mean, we know there's platforms out there. It's just a matter how are they? It always, there's all these names over the years that it just boggles my mind how they're not able to monetize their dominance in a space. And it's like, how does Unity not, so rants for another days, but it's another name I've kind of took off my watch list because it was like wasted mental energy. And the last time I traded, I think was the Roaring Kitty rumors, where one day you wake up and my premiums are up like 1,000% because Roaring Kitty is supposedly in the stock because of a tweet. I think it was at the start of this year, or an image that might have hinted at Unity. So I don't know if he does have a stake. It's possible. It's a nice rally. But again, another name just kind of missed that one. So, hey, you can't get them all, right? Let's have a great day, folks. I'll be back. Rock and roll.